The show with heartbreaking news today. If you're someone who has loved following Indian classical music over the last few years, if you're someone for who the tabla means something in particular, we've lost a giant of not just the Indian music classical scene, but a giant for India and the world. Zakir Hussain passed away. We're going to be bringing you more details about this. Let's go first though to the headlines and what else we have on the show. As we told you a little earlier, the giant of tabla has passed on. Zakir Hussain, living a fruitful life, 1951 to 2024. The legendary musician has left us. He passed away in the United States, we believe a few hours ago. Details are still coming in. We'll share that and more. After that, our top story of the day, we are bringing you breaking news in the form of incredible scientific developments that are taking place. A slice-by-slice journey inside the fetal brain. IIT Madras is mapping the future of neuroscience. The world's first 3D fetal brain atlas is here. What does that actually mean? How was this done? And what are the implications of it? All of that and more right here on the show. And after that, we bring you some incredible progress taking place on the streets of India. Pride in uniform, respect, identity and dignity, all coming through khaki. What are we talking about? Transgender officers have joined the Hyderabad police force, and we have a conversation with them. And after that, the Sharks are back. Kunal and Ritesh on What's New. We're diving into season 4 of Shark Tank. And after that, something incredibly interesting for you, the mutual fund mantra. How you can invest smart and grow rich with mutual funds. It's the smart way to invest, we've always known that. But we're going to actually bring you an expert with the answers, a beginner's guide to investing with the absolute top of SPI joining us here on the show. Our first story though, after much speculation that has carried on for hours online and in the media, we are heartbroken to confirm to you that the tabla giant, the maestro, Zakir Hussain, has passed away. This is at the age of 73 at the hospital in San Francisco. Now, this is because of pulmonary fibrosis, and this is all according to a statement from his family. So we have waited for that to confirm this news for you. If you are someone who, like me, fell in love with classical music, has watched performances of Zakir Hussain doing his magic on the stage, playing with the musical players who are right next to him, we are all celebrating him as one of the world's most transcendental classical musicians. His career has spanned 6 decades. The musician worked with several renowned international and Indian artists. In his early years, he was already a much beloved child prodigy. He went on then to collaborate with several world-famous musicians, including the Beatles. And it was his 1973 music project that actually maybe changed the map of Indian classical music. It was a project he did with the Indian classical guitarist John McLaughlin. You also had the violinist L. Shankar and the percussionist Viku Vinayak Ram. They brought together Indian classical and elements of jazz together in a fusion that till then many didn't even know was possible. It's by combining these classical elements with the Western that he created something that Indians and everyone around the world stopped and listened to. He received the Padma Shri in 1988, the Padma Bhushan in 2002, and the Padma Vibhushan in 2023. And at the 66th Grammy Awards that took place, he became the first Indian to win 3 trophies in a single night. One more feather in a cap full of feathers. There is no way, ladies and gentlemen, to summarize this extraordinary man, this extraordinary artist's indelible impact on Indian classical music. We can't summarize it, but we won't attempt to either in this short segment. He's survived by his wife, Antonia. He's also survived by his daughters. And we'd like to take a moment to celebrate him, his impact, and thank him for the impact he's left, the touch he's left on each and every one of our lives. Thank you, Zakir Hussain ji. Okay, we're going to move on from that now to something entirely different. We're shifting track to the story and the research we thought it was so important to bring you this morning. The human brain, right from the stage of it being formed inside the womb, this organ determines who we are and how we think, how we feel, what we decide to do. But what if we could open its mysteries as early as in the second trimester? What if we could see with incredible precision how a baby's brain begins to take shape? In a breakthrough, researchers at IIT Madras have done exactly that. For the first time ever, they've created a high-resolution 3D map of the developing fetal brain. This is a project called Dharini. 5,000 ultra-thin slices of the brain have been mapped, capturing over 500 regions in mind-boggling detail. Now, what does any of this mean? What was the process used and what is the impact? We're going to talk a little bit about that right here on the show, but suffice to say, it's a huge leap for humanity. And what it's going to mean essentially is that developmental disorders like autism, cerebral palsy, learning disabilities, it might be much, much easier to sense these while the fetus is still being created. Now, there are 25 million childbirths in India each year, 1/5 of the world's total. Obviously, this innovation could help countless families, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. It's a brain atlas that has been created by IIT Madras. Here are the statistics to just give you an idea of how huge this is. This is the largest data set in the world of its kind. It's also the only one that has been able to capture the growing brain in fetuses in this manner. To tell us a little bit more about what this research means for India, for the world, we have Professor Mohanasankar Shivaprakasam. He's the visionary behind Dharini. He's the head of IIT Madras' Sudha Gopalakrishnan Brain Center. And he's with us this morning to tell us a little bit more about all of this research. So let's go over to him first to understand a little bit more. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. It is so exciting for us to have you here to tell us a little bit more. So tell us first, what are the possible implications of this research? What could this research potentially do? Of course, it's going to be speculation for you and I, but tell us a little bit more about what you think this could mean.
So there are two fundamental implications which you will see playing out over the next several years. The first thing is, for the first time, we know how the brain in the fetus, brain of the fetus inside the womb is developing. As we know, it's developing very rapidly, especially during the second trimester. So we will know in great detail which region is formed at what time and what type of cells are there in what region. And this is the fundamentals of how the brain develops eventually when it comes to term and to a child and adolescent. That's the first implication. The second implication is what we have here is what we call the neurotypical brains, or healthy brains. Right? So now we are also analyzing and imaging cell resolution view of brains that have developmental disorders of various kinds. Right? And we are doing that again from second trimester, and we are even getting brains after the child is born, stillborn, with cerebral palsy and various developmental disorders. So when you have these baseline neurotypical maps, you will be able to say which regions of the brain at cellular level detail in developmental disorders are different, because that answers the clinical question and the medical question as to why this particular brain with developmental disorder, why is it behaving. And the third aspect of it, which is a slightly meta aspect, is because we will also have information here on the maternal data, how the mother was, what kind of environment, both medically as well as socially, she was in. We will have a clue, and when the scale of this mapping expands, when we do more brains, we will be able to also say what kind of implications does the environment and the mother have on the fetus development and eventually to a child and an adult.
Professor, can you explain to our audiences why this research is the first of its kind? So what I mean is, why had we not seen this kind of research done in the world before? Was it the cost that was a limiting factor here? Was it the kind of technology? Why is this the first time we're seeing research like this?
So, I mean, I'll take you back some time, how this work started itself. So in around 2015, Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan, who many of us know, a co-founder of Infosys, is one of our proud alumnus of IIT Madras. So he wanted to actually seed cutting-edge brain research at IIT Madras. And I still remember this discussion around 2015 in one of these meetings. He sort of said, can we do something at the frontier of brain sciences? Brain sciences is really a very challenging area because we do not understand the brain at the way we understand other organs. And out of that came this project. And people were doing mouse brain mapping. Mouse is about 1 centimeter cube, about the size of a small garlic. And you're talking about a fetus brain, which is about 100 centimeter cube, and an adult brain, which is 1,300 centimeter cube. And what was the limiting factor? It turns out, and if you want to do this at a scale, you need a very high throughput, high resolution imaging platform. Now, what does that mean? So the brain is pretty big in terms of when you want to do a microscopy, right? Light cannot penetrate beyond, let's say, about 100 micron or 50 micron, which is about the size of the human hair. So the only way you can actually see the entire brain in detail at cellular resolution is you have to find a way to section these brain at very, very thin slices, right? You're talking about 5, 10, 20 micron slices. And when you section them, there's a lot of challenges. Right? The brain itself is fragile. How will you section them? And even if you section them, how will you delicately place them in glass slides? And how you stain these the way you develop a photography? You can have that analogy. And then how will you microscopically image them? And now, even if you have done all this, you have a huge amount of data, which is in tens of terabytes if it's a fetal brain, and it's petabytes if it's an adult brain. And how will you put it back together? And the visuals that you're showing in one way is essentially started with the brain, and we have imaged it at cellular resolution, and now you see the 3D view of the brain as is. Now, that technology platform at a high throughput, a high resolution scale was missing. So, in one way, this is a very interesting project. So, we had to do a technology advancement to build a new technology platform, which was done in fact, it was done during the COVID period, the entire COVID period. The project just started at the beginning of the COVID period, and by the time the COVID ended, we had actually developed this technology platform fully. And using this technology platform, then we started the scientific neuroscience aspect of it, which is to image these brains. So this project itself has two advancements. One is the technology advancement that, in fact, has allowed us to do this, and the scientific advancement, which is generating this neuroscience, high quality, high resolution data that's now out there for the world, released for the first time from India.
Professor, can you tell us, one of the things I read in research about what you've done is that this could potentially have an impact on AI and the way AI is developing. And that felt like a strange connection. How could the human brain and what we're learning about it in its embryonic form have any impact on AI? Can you explain that link to me?
Yeah, that's a very deep question. So, if you look at AI today, and we'll give a 50,000 feet view, when we say artificial intelligence, which are primarily made of constructing what we call as neural networks, right? Maybe some of you have heard of the word neural networks, is the way we think the brain is structured and how intelligence or how computing works, even before we go to the intelligence. So the way we have a computer designed today is there is storage, then there is processor, then there is memory. All of these we look at as individual modules, and we connect them, and that's how we do computing. Now, we all know, even one look at the brain, that obviously memory, storage, and computing is not the way we have organized in a computer.
Right.
So, what would be the ultimate AI in terms of how would you create an artificially intelligent computer at the kind of power, which is about 20 to 30 watts, is what the brain consumes, and we are consuming megawatts, and we're talking about gigawatts of power to actually power all these GPUs that are around the world. So the clue is obviously inside the human brain, because the brain is obviously structured in a certain way, which we would like to know, so that we can actually attempt to create the neural networks, which actually are the foundations of artificial intelligence, so that we can actually create more, first, energy efficient, and two, computationally efficient artificial intelligence. Today, what we are doing is, a more approximate and highly approximated version of what a neuron and how a neural network works. And that approximation, obviously, leads to a very large, rather inefficient way of doing AI, and this has been talked about quite a bit. So, looking into the brain, starting from right from the fetus and how the brain adapts into a structure and gets into an adult, will give us a lot of clue on how we could potentially create neural networks and build artificial intelligence systems that are much more efficient and much more powerful.
Professor, can I ask you, another thing that I read about when reading about the coverage around this story was that India had managed to do this research in a very cost-effective manner. So we'd done it at what was said to be 1/3 of the price or the amount that, for example, a Western institution would study. Professor, I want to ask you, sometimes when we talk about India's ability to be kifayati or smart in the ways it approaches technology, there's a pro and a con to it. There's also a con to the fact that we can do things at these levels. I just want to ask you, how did you manage to do this, and how do you see that sort of that critique, that we do manage to do things at cheaper prices, but sometimes that's not the best part of our research? What do you have to say around that?
Yeah, so if you look at this particular data, and this is released publicly, I mean, it's out there, you could actually see it on your phone, and we have wanted to make this public for two reasons. First is we want the world to have access to this high quality neuroscience data.
Right.
And we would not have put, and we were never planning to hold this data back, and we would not have put unless it's an absolutely high quality data. And this is today being viewed by researchers all around the world. We just concluded a fetal brain workshop last week with researchers from almost 7 or 8 different countries. So this is the largest high quality second trimester fetal brain data. Right? I mean, that as the journal, which is publishing this Journal of Comparative Neurology, we had the editor, Dr. Susanna, who's in India this week. She has written a very detailed editorial about it. And the first part of your question, how are we able to do this at a cost? It is actually has to do with the technology automation. Yes, it is not to do so much with, things are cheaper in India. So that's actually not the case here. Because we have built a technology platform which can do this at scale. So when we say scale, we can actually, to an approximation, we can actually section an entire adult brain in less than a month.
No, but tell us, just to understand that a little bit more, Professor, how much time does that usually take for us to understand how much shorter 1 month is?
Right. So typically, you will see this probably being done in several months to even a year.
Wow. Okay.
Right? And fetal brain, we are able to section and convert it into a 3D volume in few weeks to months. Right? This includes the sectioning and then the staining and all the way. So it is the technology platform and the automation, right, that actually makes us do it at a faster rate. And because it's faster, the cost comes down. Wow. It's not the cost is down because, we have made it cheaper. It has actually been, so that's how technology works. You do it at a certain scale and you're able to automate, then the cost comes down.
Professor, if I could ask you lastly, what's next for this organization, for Dharini, for the library? What do you see as the next stage of this research?
Yeah, as we say, actually, this is really the beginning of the beginning, I would say. We have started with fetal brains and we have close to 230 brains that we have acquired, starting from gestational week 14 and all the way to 90-year-old with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, various neurodegenerative conditions. So we are imaging these brains across age groups and across disease conditions. And we intend to make all of this as a public resource for everybody. So this is the first aspect of it. The second aspect of it is what you have seen is the maps and the atlases. Right? So now the medical and the clinical findings, well, when you look at these images and you correlate them with clinical conditions, and that work has started, that will actually produce clinical findings. The third aspect of it is we are also doing deeper molecular level analysis in certain regions of the brain beyond the cellular level detail. So those are the three directions and advancements that's going to happen, and we will be continually releasing these results over as and when they happen.
It's already the biggest library of its kind, Professor. Your research, I know you already know it's path-breaking, but it's so incredible to hear about it here on the show. Thank you for breaking it down for us, for making it so easy for us to understand. Congratulations and good luck on all of the further research for you and the students who are researching with you.
Thank you, Toya. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's take you, our audiences. We hope that's given you a positive, inspiring start to the way you think about research in India and the way you go about the rest of your day. Let's take you very quickly to stories that are taking place in India and around the world. These are our wraps. Okay, first up, we're bringing you news about our bureaucrats. More than 4,500 international civil servants from 32 countries have visited India. This is for a mid-career capacity building program on public policy and governance. This is what the Lok Sabha has just been informed about. This was the Union MOS for Personnel, Jitendra Singh, who said this in a written reply on capacity building programs for international civil servants, not Indian civil servants, and the manners in which India was disseminating information. Now, we're going to bring you more information on this in the future. Deal-making in India's healthcare sector has surged in recent years, with hospitals now commanding the largest share of FDI within this entire sector. In FY24, if we just look at the data, hospitals accounted for 50% of the FDI in total healthcare, translating to $1.5 billion. This marks a huge increase as the share of hospitals in healthcare FDI has more than doubled. So if we just take a look at 21, financial year 21, it was at 24%, and it's been rising from 43% in FY20, underscoring the growing prominence of this in the health sector. And lastly, Union Minister Nitin Gadkari said that around 75 tunnel NHAI projects entailing investments of 49,000 crores as we speak are under construction. This was during the World Tunnel Day 2024 conference. It's during this that the Minister for Road, Transport and Highways said that huge potential lies in the tunnel sector in India. And coming up after the break, we are not done sharing interesting insights for you through the day. What we have for you next is a mutual fund mantra of sorts. We have the absolute top of mutual funds from SBI joining us here on the show to tell you, of course, we know mutual funds hi sahi hain, but how, where and why. We're bringing you a beginner's guide and a mid-career investor's guide into investing. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
The 33rd United States Military Academy Chaplain, Colonel David Olis. I invite you to pray with me. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker and maker. This tradition reflects not just the spirit of competition, but the enduring ideals of our nation of selfless service, sacrifice, and commitment. And we stand in awe of these cadets and midshipmen. Bless these warriors, bless those who cheer them on, and God bless the United States of America. Bless the proud may be held as the twilight floods sleeping, whose rush shines and bright stars will never find. For the rampart we watch when the raven sleeps dreaming, and the The 33rd United States Military Academy Chaplain, Colonel David Oles. I invite you to pray with me.
Welcome back on The Breakfast Club. Today we've really got an action-packed episode for you. We're taking you next after discussing brain developments to a story of personal inspiration. This is an incredible story that we've got actually coming into you from Hyderabad, where Hyderabad is seeing its first ever trans traffic assistance. What do we mean when we say that? A group of trans men and trans women have taken on a new challenge as Hyderabad's first ever traffic assistance. This is a historic first for Hyderabad police. It's welcomed its newest recruits. These are 44 people. They say they're ready to take on the challenge of keeping the city's streets safe. Take a look. We had a conversation.
फैमिली तो एक्सेप्ट नहीं किया और सोसाइटी वाले एक्सेप्ट नहीं किया और जो रिलेशन है ना रिलेशन फ्रेंड्स उन लोग भी एक्सेप्ट नहीं किया बिकॉज ऑफ आई एम ए ट्रांसजेंडर नो दैट इज व्हाई दे आर नॉट एक्सेप्टेड मी
It has been a lifelong struggle for respect, identity and dignity, but not anymore. Srivalli, Namrata and 42 other trans men and trans women have bagged a coveted job with the Hyderabad police as the city's first ever batch of traffic assistants. It's not just another job.
अब से मेरा नहीं सबका किन्नर का लाइफ चेंज होता है और यही फर्स्ट स्टेप है यही टेकिंग फर्स्ट स्टेप टू चेंज माय ट्रांस लाइफ थैंक यू फॉर टीएस गवर्नमेंट एंड थैंक यू फॉर सीएम सर
The training is rigorous. Assemble early morning, learn the basics of traffic management and develop a tougher body language. Yashwant says his background as a state level boxer will help him. He is also preparing for the UPSC.
So basically my dream, I want to be a CBI officer, Central Bureau of Investigator, and I want to track UPSC and CBI.
Are you preparing for UPSC?
Yeah. I was started, but when I being a female at that time, I was thinking to actually I'm a national boxer. When I being a female that time, I have two ambitions basically, as per your question. Two ambitions. First one NIS as a boxing coach, national level, and second one UPSC, CBI officer.
While they are ready to break barriers, do they fear being ostracized on the job?
I have an ambition to सभी लोग ट्रांसजेंडर को टेक फॉरवर्ड एंड वी हैव एन गुड जॉब्स इन सोसाइटी गुड नेम इन सोसाइटी
Okay, we're taking you next to something very, very interesting. Over the last few years, a lot of us have become fans of Shark Tank, a show where you pitch an idea and get to watch the sharks either take it down or be floored by it and be full of appreciation. We're bringing you next a interview or a conversation of sorts. Shark Tank India is back with season 4. We've got an interview with two of those who are considered the most formidable sharks, Kunal and Ritesh. Take a look. This is a conversation.
Thank you, Ritesh and Kunal, for speaking to us, and welcome to the Breakfast Club. In this very interview, we'd want to know your understanding of your entrepreneurial business and, of course, your reason to be back on Shark Tank. So, moving with the first question for the two of you all, what is your reason to be back? What motivated you all to come back on Shark Tank season 4? And, what are your expectations when it comes to the entrepreneurs who would be here in this season?
Yeah, look, I think I was there in the last season, and I think season 3 in my mind was a very important needle moving movement for Shark Tank, where essentially you saw the quality of companies, size of companies continue to expand, and the reaction and love the season 3 got has been out of the charts. It's probably significantly ahead of any of the seasons we've seen. I think I believe that in life what data doesn't say, anecdotes do. So a lot of data points were saying that Shark Tank 3 did very well. But the anecdotes were, for the first time I heard such incredible stories of people from Samastipur, Darbhanga, of course in bigger cities like Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, creating exceptional companies purely because they found great ideas from Shark Tank. So I think India, which possibly will be one of the most prominent economies in the world, will only get there because of its entrepreneurial rise. And Shark Tank, I think, is probably the most, is leading the pack in terms of helping entrepreneurs in India. So that's why I'm back, but
Yeah,
up to Kunal.
he's back and I'm first. So, you know, a lot of what I've done over the last 17, 18 years is to do with the startup ecosystem, right? Like when I started my company in 2007 along with my co-founder Rohit, there's nothing known as a startup, right? It was either you did a family business or you did a job. This twilight zone of a 20-year-old, 21-year-old or 18-year-old starting a company and going raising money from someone else, not family money, was an unheard of concept, right? But look how far we've come. In the last 17, 18 years, we've just explosion, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of startups, lakhs of crores of value created for employees, shareholders, those who took risks like the founders themselves. It is incredible how much the startup ecosystem has moved the needle for India. And for me, I've been playing the role of a founder, an entrepreneur, operator, as well as of an investor, having invested in many companies over the last 13 years, many of whom which have become very big also. This to me was an extension of that, where whatever inputs, knowledge, experience, mistakes and capital that I could share in a closed room, now we can do it at scale on a national platform like Shark Tank.
What are you actually looking for in the entrepreneurs you all will be meeting in this very season?
Look, I think I've always said मैं घोड़े पे नहीं जॉकी पे पैसे लगाता हूँ. I think I've always found that entrepreneurs are the superpower behind a business. Entrepreneur, the teams, the people behind the company. So look, companies that come to Shark Tank can be very early or they can be reasonably advanced. But either ways, I'm looking at people who are exceptionally driven, who have a sense of purpose, who are not doing it just for a short-term return or money, and also people who are straightforward, who are easy to understand and easy to work with. I think that's what I'm searching.
So, you also spoke about how small towns, villages are seeing a lot of entrepreneurs coming in. Do you think startup system in India has actually evolved since the last season? What are the trends that you've seen, that you foresee for the coming season?
Yeah, I think there are 4 trends that viewers will see in the upcoming Shark Tank. The first one is, like you mentioned, I think you're seeing sort of entrepreneurs come from villages whose name has never been heard by people in the tank. I famously come from a place called Raigada, and I've been trying to make my town's name famous because I want people to know about that place. When I meet entrepreneurs who come to the tank with similar perspective, it's fascinating. So that's one thing I'm seeing. Second, I'm also seeing that a lot of companies which are small and medium business enterprises, which are backbone of our economy, they are now wanting to grow and become more professionalized, being organized like large corporations. I think that's an opportunity I continue to find quite fascinating. I think the third what I find is during COVID, a lot of people among the families, like the wife and the husband, daughter-in-law and the mother-in-law, they've gotten together, and what started as a passion project are all becoming serious businesses. And those are serious businesses in the sense like millions of dollars worth of businesses. So short perspective is, there is no colony in India where a startup is not being created. I was speaking just day before yesterday to one of the founders from First Bird Organics, which is from Devgarh in Jharkhand. वहाँ पे एक बहुत बड़ा भोलेनाथ जी का मंदिर है. Now she says that I am like a celebrity in town, right? She's probably 60. In her life, she had only traveled twice to Mumbai. Not Mumbai, anywhere outside of Devgarh in her life, she had only traveled twice. First for Shark Tank audition, second for Shark Tank pitch.
Okay.
Now she's a celebrity in town. Every woman in a town now wants to emulate her and come to Shark Tank. So they all come and ask her tips. Kaise jana hai Shark Tank? How to apply? What kind of business to set up? So I think if in a small way Shark Tank is playing a role in that, a startup in every colony, and I feel like it's a beautiful thing that India will possibly have lakhs of startups like this.
Yeah, I feel the biggest takeaway for anyone watching the show is that they can also do it. Right now, you don't need to have some special knowledge. You don't need to feel that someone else knows some secret. Because of that, they are successful. It's all in the open now. The methodology of going from a spark of an idea in your head to a successful company, the entire arc of that journey is now showcased on Shark Tank India again and again and again. And that is what inspiration looks like, when you suddenly feel that I can also do it.
Sure. Thank you so much for speaking to us. We look forward to helping you help the budding entrepreneurs.
Okay, let's take you now from that incredible conversation to a different one. As we navigate the complexities of personal finance, the Breakfast Club likes to hold your hand and take any questions that you have to the experts. One question that often used to pop up years ago is, kya mutual funds sahi hai mere liye? Are mutual funds the right investment choice to make? Now, over the last few years, it feels like there's been a bit of a tidal shift on that question. Most of us know that yes, mutual funds are a sensible decision to make. But what does that actually mean? What are the mutual funds that one should be investing in? What's the right way to do it? And if you're someone who's been doing it for years, what's the next step to take? To tell you about this, to also tell you about the industry at large, how wide investment has spread within it, Mr. D.P. Singh, Deputy Manager Director and Joint CEO of SBI Mutual Funds, is with us here on the show. Sir, thank you for joining us. Let me just tell the audiences a little bit more about you and then we'll come to you with questions. He brings over 32 years of experience in the banking and financial services industry. Mr. Singh has been instrumental in driving the growth of SBI Mutual Fund over the last few years. And we've also seen SBI expand its reach in urban and rural areas, launch several innovative products. We'll talk a little bit more about that here on the show. Mr. Singh, thank you for joining us. Mr. Singh, as we were telling our audiences already, today we're lucky to say that mutual funds as a concept is not alien to audiences. Most people watching this show today already know what mutual funds are, perhaps have made investments in them, know that it is the sensible way to invest your money. So tell us, how do you see the industry and mutual funds in general just growing further when most urban consumers, possibly most rural consumers, already know that it's the smart thing to do?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on the show, first of all. And it's a great pleasure to talk to the evolved audience of CNN. That's a pleasure. But taking to your question, yes, first thing that it's not only the urban and metro centers, it's the smaller towns also, is pan-India. Mutual fund message has reached every nook and corner. Everybody wants to be part of it. Now, how do we take it forward? And this seen in the numbers that we used to be 10 years ago, mutual funds used to be 10% of total bank deposits. Today, it is already 32%. The kind of growth the people have accepted and taken the plunge in the mutual fund story. But now here on, what is sahi for whom is something we have to take it to the overall ecosystem of the country.
What do you mean when you say that? Tell us a little bit about it. You know, we've seen this trend over the last few years, as you said. But what is right for whom? What does that mean?
No, today, the big money is coming from the youngsters, right? The people joining. They know that because they have seen in the last 5-6 years only one wave. That's the upward journey of the equity market and mutual funds. They have not seen the cycles. We as an industry, we have the responsible people have to tell them, look, these cycles are like, this is not a straight line. This is a volatile kind of business, and you have to be here for the long period. If you are seeing good money being made in 6 months and 1 year, that is not something which happens in the market. And there will be a cycle of 6 months, 1 year where you will lose money. You will see the notionally money coming down. You have to be ready for that and keep it for long period. If you are taking a plunge in equity market, it should not be for 6 months or 1 year. It has to be minimum for 3 to 5 years, then move forward for a longer period to create wealth. Wealth is not created in 6 months and 1 year.
It's like that line that we're so used to, mutual fund investments are subject to market risk. It's very hard to take that line out of our brains. Tell us, sir, if you could tell us a little bit about the trends we've seen. So you just gave us some insight. You told us that younger people, when they invest, they typically will take it out early. That's something that needs to change. Tell us a little bit about trends you're seeing in other age segments too. The changes you want there, what you've observed about markets.
Now, what I feel is that we need to educate youngsters the most because youngsters are riding the wealth creation journey of their parents also today.
Right.
Day before I was traveling from Chandigarh to Ludhiana, and the driver whom I was driving with asked me, "What are you doing?" I said, "I am an SB mutual fund." He says, "I am also doing mutual fund." How do you do it? He said, "I have downloaded an app and I am doing through that app." How did you come to know about it? He said, my son is software engineer. He told me and I downloaded it. Now I keep on investing in this thing, and he doesn't know anything about this thing. But the education has come from his son.
Right.
Now his son needs to be educated if we need to the next level. That is 10 years ago it used to be different. All the youngsters used to say that my money is being managed by my papa, my mother, or something like that in the family. But today it's other way around, because youngsters feel that they are the experts in this market. So we need to reach out to them. That I'm taking it as a challenge for the industry and for myself, that we have to reach out and tell them what is the right. सही में क्या सही है वो बताना बहुत जरूरी है.
Sir, this is but just such lovely news to start the day with, and you're right. Even I've observed that taking place everywhere, and I'm just a common layperson, but I have seen young people talk about how they are investing their parents' money, and it's lovely. You know, you'll be driving sometimes, as you said, in Ubers, and you'll see the drivers either checking their stock market. You know, they have stock market applications, or they'll be checking their mutual funds, and it's incredible to see, as you said, that kind of information and knowledge reaching everyone around the country. Tell us something, sir. You touched on this a little earlier. You talked about the fact that market downturns happen, and sometimes when those downturns happen, people will make changes, and those changes sometimes aren't the smartest changes. Tell us, what do you think mutual fund investors should do during market downturns?
See, they have to have patience, and any downturn doesn't stay for a long period, and it comes back because businesses are doing very, very well in India. And I strongly feel, and as a part of the ecosystem of the country, we strongly believe the next 2 decades are ours, and capital market is bound to grow. But the longevity is there. Cycles will come, downturn cycles will come. But as responsible manufacturers like SBI Mutual Fund, because people put money with the brand name also, they are putting money with the SBI brand name. So our responsibility is don't take excessive risks in managing people's money, and we should not be showing that we are giving the highest returns. Returns come with the risks. So our endeavor is always that whenever there is a downturn, we should be able to halt the downturn within the fund scheme. So in that turn, we may not be giving the highest returns, but we want to give the good returns with the market, beating benchmarks, but not the super duper returns, which can be done only with the taking the very, very high risk. So that's the role of all the credible fund houses, to take care of people's money.
Basically, you want to be investing money smartly for people and safely for people. I think safe is the key operative word here.
Mr. Singh, relative safety. Relative safety.
Can we ask you then, Mr. Singh, because you've touched on something very interesting here. When people are deciding how to select a fund, then how should they go about deciding that? Because you're essentially saying, don't go for the person that's giving you, or the establishment that's giving you the largest returns. Look at safety, a combination of factors. Then give us your formula. How should one look for where they invest their money, how they select a fund? What are your tips?
The thing is, today, majority of the people, they look at the chart, how much return last 1 year, 3 years has happened in a particular fund, without looking at the philosophy of investment of that fund. And that is not possible for every individual to look at the philosophy of each and every fund. But generally, when we are looking at the last 1 year return or 3 year returns in a particular fund, basically we are driving the car looking at the back mirror. We can do that. Because what is future, I don't know. Future, so for that, the credibility of the fund management team, the credibility of the fund house, that is extremely important. So one thing I want to actually caution, that we should never ever be putting money in something which has given the highest returns, because highest returns have come on in the background of so many other things which we are not knowing, and whether these things are valid today or not, we don't know, right? So that's something which we always tell people, that be aware of this, that choose is, while saying so, I'm not trying to be defensive. Nobody should read it that we will not be super duper returns. Even our fund house, some schemes are showing the highest, topping the charts in the returns. But that has just happened. We are not taking credit for that. Our philosophy was this: we could do it. We can do it tomorrow also.
Okay,
But-
Mr. Singh, can I just ask you to take us a little bit behind the scenes and share a little bit when it comes to secrets? So what I mean when I say that is, in the last few years, SBI has had 3 thematic funds, you've had passive funds, now the SBI Quant Fund, it's your latest offering. What is the thinking process there? So walk us through what SBI sees behind the scenes as some of the trends when it comes to the sector, where you see the growth happening. Tell us some of that too.
Yeah. See, whenever we come out with a thematic fund, a lot of hard work happens before launching or deciding to launch a fund. For example, if we came out with the Energy Opportunities Fund, we thought that as a country we are energy deficit, and we are see the whole country is coming out with lot more renewable energy, and what are the existing stocks which are available in the market. And when we saw there are 200, 300 stocks from which I can make a universe, the market cap is very good. There's an opportunity where the people go. So we, in the background of that, when we saw that a lot of things are going to happen in the energy sector because of the commitment of the government, the commitment and the requirement of energy. So we thought that this is the time to come out with the fund. And when we saw the huge market cap is available, so came out with a fund which could collect. We thought that at least 10,000 crore can be invested in this company. So we wanted to collect 7,000, 8,000 crore in that fund. And we see that in the next 3-4 years, we see that when the energy sector is growing, this fund will go.
Quant fund hota kya cheez hai though? Sir, tell us that. Quant is a little bit complicated as a word, and I want to remove that for our audiences. So tell us.
Yeah. Quant is basically we see quantitative models. There are companies which are which are being bucketed into the value stocks, where the stocks are good but they are undervalued. Then there are growth stocks, which are the sector, which are the companies which are growing very, very fast, and they will those companies will give very good return. Then there's a momentum. Then there is a momentum in particular thing. Momentum and growth actually sometimes go hand in hand, but there's a small difference in that. And then there's a quality. The company, the business quality is very, very good, and there's a visibility that the next 10 years. 15 years, 5 years, this is going to be the leader, having the leadership position. So the markets give actually a premium to the leadership in any business, any company which is leading the particular sector or particular system, they get the values. So we created this thing that how these and there are cycles. Sometimes in the market, growth stocks go up. Sometimes in the value stock goes up. Sometimes quality takes a preference. So we did a lot of hard work for last 15 years. We did the back testing. I said, if there are 4 buckets, whatever bucket is doing good in that particular period, say 3 months or 6 months, why not be overweight in that? Because otherwise in a general fund, you can't do that.
Right.
We created 4 buckets and said, okay, we will give weightage to these buckets. And we did live actually on the data. For 5 years, we ran a dummy fund. And but the results were amazing. Results were that the funds were giving 3% alpha over the markets. Overall market 3 to 4% if we are changing the theme every month. So that we did for 5 years, and the results which came, we did a lot of R&D. One quant specialist who is the fund manager today, she did this work, and we have data for all the 5 years. And we thought this is something where individual biases, the biases of fund managers are not there. Only the quantitative data is telling us where to move the money. So from that model, we have come out with this fund. Because generally there are other factor funds. This is called factor funds. Quant funds are called on the factor basis. So this is the first of its kind, and this is back tested. We have a track record, and we are very confident that we can create a portfolio of almost 5,000 crores on day one.
Mr. Singh, we're very grateful that you're here to share this research with us in particular, but it's also not too often that we get to hear the behind the scenes, behind how the investment, the research, the kind of research that makes these things happen, that makes them a reality. We don't too often get to hear behind the scenes. So thank you for joining us, Mr. Singh. Thank you for shedding that spotlight on this research and the new initiatives that we're seeing. Hopefully we'll see younger people, as you said, continue to invest intelligently and safely. I loved when you told us a little bit earlier about the importance of that. Thank you for joining us, sir, here on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, and we're not done yet with financial advice. Next, we bring you a special section on financial markets powered by Money Control Pro. It's Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. Let's take a look. First up, Indian markets, they're expected to open flat. Given the readings of GIFT Nifty, US markets closed flat on Friday ahead of a crucial Fed meet this week. Asian markets are trading mixed in anticipation of rate cuts in the US during the week. Oil prices are trading marginally lower, while gold prices are marginally higher in earlier Asian market trades that we can already track right now. Let's take you next to sectors. Premium products are in demand across consumer discretionary categories. One such category, and the one that we're looking today at, is kitchen sinks and appliances, thanks to steadily rising in demand for premium homes. Some of these players are also foraying into other categories. So you have bathroom interior products, for example. Domestic real estate remains the key market here. Exports are serving as useful diversification to this. But you can log into Money Control Pro to find out more about India's home appliance sector and various other actionable insights on the market. It's the premier destination for all investing views and financial insights that you're ever going to need, brought to you by Money Control. And with that, we are heading into a short break, but we're not done yet. We'll see you in just a few minutes right here on The Breakfast Club.
The 33rd United States Military Academy Chaplain, Colonel David Oles. I invite you to pray with me. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the Maker and Maker. This tradition reflects not just the spirit of competition, but the enduring ideals of our nation of selfless service, sacrifice, and commitment. And we stand in awe of these cadets and midshipmen. Bless these warriors, bless those who cheer them on, and God bless the United States of America.
Okay, let's take you very quickly to news we're very excited to announce. It's that time of the year again. Indian of the Year Awards are back, and this is your chance to celebrate the visionaries, the icons that made India proud. Right from trailblazing business leaders to inspiring youth icons, entertainers, sports legends, change makers, these are the incredible individuals who've left their mark. They've inspired millions worldwide, and you can show your support by voting for your favorite Indian at www.indianoftheyear.com. Remember, we're going to honor together India's pride and those who've been the world's inspiration. This is the RP Sanjeev Goenka Group presenting CNN News 18's Indian of the Year 2024. And with that, we are bringing our Monday edition of the Breakfast Club to an end. We hope all of the exciting inventions, the cool new opportunities have left you inspired for today and for the rest of the week. We'll see you tomorrow.